In the fall, when the first frost hit and the ground froze to within an inch, no one believed that winter had already started. Everyone thought it would melt again soon, but Mike, Kevin, and I decided that now was the time to start making a skating rink. We had a little garden in our yard. Not a garden, just 2 flower beds and a lawn with grass around it and a fence around it. We decided to make a skating rink in this garden because in the winter the flower beds are invisible to anyone anyway. Kevin said, "You guys just have to get permission from the superintendent first, otherwise we can't even start. The cleaning lady won't let us do anything anyway." "What if the manager won't let us?" Mike said. "We asked him to set up a volleyball court in the summer and he wouldn't let us. He was so strict." "I think he will," said Kevin. "Mr. Smith is a good man. We just have to talk to him nicely." "What do you mean, politely?" Mike didn't understand. "Well, it means respectful. Adults like to be spoken to respectfully, and a word like strict is not something anyone likes to hear." "No way," Mike waved his hands. "How could I ever say such words? I only say it behind my back." "Behind your back?" Kevin grinned. "You'll say a lot of things to your face. I've gotten to know you. When we get to the manager's office, you'd better keep quiet. I'll talk to him myself." "Mike's talking." "Okay." We immediately went to the superintendent's office. Lucky for us, Mr. Smith was there. He was sitting behind a desk with a pile of papers. In the middle of the pile was a notebook. With his left hand, the manager was jotting down the numbers in the notebook, and with his right hand, he was writing something down. "Hello, Mr. Smith," Kevin said politely. "Hello, my friend, hello." The manager didn't even pay attention to us and continued to run his finger over the numbers. "We're here to see you, Mr. Smith." "I can see that, buddy. I can see that. Why are you here?" "We want to talk to you a little bit," Kevin continued. "Well, talk. We want to ask you something. Ask. We want to ask you, Mr. Smith, one thing. Please tell us, do you have to do any sports work for us?" "What kind of sports work?" Mr. Smith asked, and pressing a figure in his notebook with his finger, looked at us over his spectacles. "Well, as superintendent, you have to do our sports work." Mr. Smith made a pencil mark beside the pinched figure, ran his hand over his head, as if he wanted to comb his hair, and said, I think it's you. You're the ones who should be doing the sports work." "We understand that," Kevin replied. "We have to do our own sports work. But you are going to help us?" The manager tilted his head to the side and spread his hands over the table. "What do you want to do?" "We want to have a skating rink for the winter." "Oh, all right. Do it. Well, where do you want to do it?" Kevin told us that we want to level the ground in the garden, water it, and run electricity, so we can skate in the light. The manager approved of our plan. He was visibly cheerful because at first he was scared and thought we wanted to make him do the sports work himself. But when he saw that nothing of the sort was required of him, he said, "Act, guys, and if you need anything, come to me." "That's what respectful conversation means," Mike said as we left the manager's office. "You're doing great, Kevin. I'm going to be like that from now on." After that, we organized the guys and told them whoever didn't work would not be allowed to ride. So everybody got really into it. One of the guys came up with the idea of breaking the fence on one side and taking it 10 steps to the side to make the rink wider. Everything was going very cleverly and well, but only until our work was noticed by Lily's mom. "What kind of construction is this?" she asked. "Why are you ruining the garden?" Kevin and I began to explain to her that it was going to be a skating rink. "Well, an ice skating rink," she said. "Why destroy the flower beds?" You can have a skating rink around the flower beds." Kevin and I wanted to explain to her politely, but Mike intervened. "How can you skate around flower beds?" he said with contempt on his face. "Can't you see they're quadrangular? Or don't you understand?" "I understand everything," said Lily's mom. "But you don't understand. I'll go tell the manager what you're doing here." "Ha ha ha ha," said Mike. "Go tell him. Let's see what the super says." Lily's mom came back from the manager's office angry. I guess he explained to her that he let us do the skating rink. She didn't say anything else to us, but instead she started telling all the tenants that now the little kids wouldn't even have a place to walk. And she complained to Mr. Johnson in apartment 5 that we had moved the fence, and now he couldn't drive his car out of the garage. Mr. Johnson instantly jumped out of the house and started demanding that we move the fence back. Kevin and I politely began to explain to him that the car would go through, but Mike intervened again. "Look," he shouted, "there's plenty of room to pass. Don't you realize that the car will pass very freely? You must have some sense." When Mr. Johnson heard such rudeness, he got terribly angry, brought the manager and began to argue that the fence should be put back, and the manager began to argue that the fence could stand here. They ended up fighting, and Mr. Johnson ran to write a complaint against the superintendent, and the superintendent said to us, "Mind you, I won't quarrel with anybody else on your account. If anyone complains about you again, I'll ban the ice rink." "This is all your fault," Kevin said to Mike. "Why do you keep being so rude? If you can't be polite, don't say anything." "I am being polite," said Mike. Anyway, because of Mike, we had a fight with all the tenants. They were not happy with us and did nothing but grumble at us. A few days later, the thaw came, and our work became easier. We leveled the site, made an earthen border around the edges, even painted the fence, and started to build an electric lantern. We collected money from all the guys, bought an electric cord, a bulb, and a socket. We had a pole for the lantern a long time ago. It was left after the repair of the house and was lying in the middle of the yard. We dug it into the ground, and Uncle Sam from the 9th apartment helped us do the wiring. He was such a good man. We even wanted to write about him in the newspaper, but at first we had no time, and then we somehow forgot. And when everything was done and our lantern was ready to shine brightly over the skating rink, Aunt Dorothy, the cleaning lady, intervened. "I'll tell you what, kids," she said. "You're going to have to give the pole back, because we're going to need it for repairs next summer." Kevin started to prove to her that we wouldn't do anything bad to the pole, and in the end he probably would have talked her into it. But then Mike couldn't take it anymore. "Wait a minute," he said. "I'll explain it to her politely." He pushed Kevin away and started yelling, "What do you think this is, a pole? What do you think the pole was made for? You think they made a pole so it could rot in the snow all winter until it's repaired? What do you have on your shoulders, a head or something?" Aunt Dorothy got angry and ran to the superintendent's office. "You see what you've done," said Kevin. "The manager said he wouldn't take it anymore. All the guys went after Mike. Because of you, they said, they're going to ban the skating rink. You've done nothing but work for nothing." Mike was ready to tear his hair out. How did I get that out of me? He was killing himself. Suddenly we saw Aunt Dorothy running back, followed by the manager. Mike saw her, clung to the pole with his hands and started howling. "I won't give up the pole. I won't give up the pole. I'll save up money and pay you for it. I won't eat ice cream for the whole winter." The manager heard and only waved his hand. "All right," he said. "You can have this pole." And he left. And Aunt Dorothy saw that she had failed and said, "Good, we'll talk to you again." And so the hardest days dragged on. For 2 weeks in a row it was thawing, not even a light frost. The snow sometimes fell, but it melted immediately and only made slush. Mike and I were beginning to think that this year would be the end of winter, and we were getting desperate. Finally, the long-awaited frost hit, and then we had a new adventure. No one wanted to give us water for the skating rink. First, we went to Aunt Dorothy and asked her to give us her cleaning hose to water the rink with, but she wouldn't give it to us. She said, "I'm against your skating rink. It will melt in the spring, and I'll clean it up. All the residents are against the skating rink. We'll write a petition to the manager to ruin it." We say, "No, we'll water it without you. If the rink freezes, you'll come to skate on it yourself." And I won't. And if it freezes, I'll sprinkle ash on it. No one will come to skate anyway. We started to carry water with buckets from the kitchen of the 6th apartment, but they soon drove us out of there. They said that we had caused them dirt. And what dirt was there when there was no dirt in the courtyard? We started fetching water from the 1st apartment, but they kicked us out of there too. We went to the 4th apartment, and they kicked us out of there too. Then Mike remembered that Uncle Andrew in apartment 20 had a small hose. We'd all seen Uncle Andrew use it to wash his motorcycle in the summer. So we went and asked him for the hose, and what a kind man he turned out to be. He gave us the hose and even said he'd keep it for the rest of the winter. There are such people in the world. We also decided to write about him in the newspaper, but then we forgot about him for some reason. Everything was somehow out of our hands. After we got the hose, we went to the kitchen of the 4th apartment. There are 2 faucets. Mike said, "Here we won't disturb anyone. We'll attach the hose to one faucet and let the residents take water from the other." We attached the hose to the faucet and started watering the rink. At first it went well. The water was coming out of the hose with force and reaching every corner of the playground. Mike held the hose with both hands and smiled with a full face. The jet hissed and crackled, making everyone happy. Suddenly there was a delay. The stream suddenly became weaker, then it seemed to fade and stopped flowing altogether. "What is it?" Mike wondered. "The hose must have bounced off the faucet." We ran into the kitchen. The hose is still in place, but the water is not flowing. The faucet's closed. "What's so ridiculous?" Mike Mixau, who would want to close the faucet. We turned off the faucet, began to water again. Suddenly, again, stop, no water flowing. We run into the kitchen, no one's there, and the faucet's closed. And so on several times. Finally, we realized to put a guard at the faucet, and only after that things got better. Late at night, we finished watering the skating rink, but we never found out who invented this mischief with the faucet. During the night, the water froze solidly and firmly. The next day was the grand opening of the skating rink. All the boys gathered around. The ice glistened like a mirror. Mike was the first to drive out onto the middle of the ice. "I declare the rink open," he shouted and immediately fell down. Everyone, as if on cue, rushed onto the ice and the skating began. They skated on skates and off skates. Everybody laughed and fell. The skates jingled and cut the ice with a hiss. Even those who did not build a skating rink skated, but we did not forbid them. We wanted everyone to be joyful and happy on such a day. Even many adults came out to the yard and watched our fun. And Mr. Smith, the superintendent, came and said, "I'm going to buy some skates and come skating in the evenings. I'll remember my youth." Then he actually bought skates, and often at night, when the boys were asleep, he would come and skate on our rink. He was such a good man that I wanted to write about him in the newspaper. Our skating rink was good, big, and strong. Nothing bad could be said about it. But soon there were so many skaters that there wasn't enough room for everyone. So Mike, in order to relieve the rink, came up with a measure. Whoever had a D not allowed on the rink until he corrects it. From then on, Everyone who came to the rink had to show their diary. Some of the Ds had to pull themselves up. Mike ended up getting a D in English himself. He was really into skating. He didn't even go to the skating rink after school. He was ashamed to show his diary to the kids. That day, there was a hockey game at the rink. Many adults came to watch us play. Everyone looked at us and no one swore. Even Aunt Dorothy looked at us and smiled affectionately. She was happy that her little Alex was playing with the older kids and no one was chasing him away. When a hockey puck bounced off the rink over the edge, she picked it up and threw it back on the ice. Suddenly, Greg's mom noticed that Mike wasn't among the players. "Look, where's Mike?" she asked. "He built and built the rink, but he doesn't skate. Maybe he's sick." "We should go see him," said Lily's mom. They both decided to go see Mike. I went to see them off. When we got there, Mike was sitting at his desk doing his homework. "Why aren't you skating, Mike?" Greg's mom asked. Mike said he had a lot of homework to do and wouldn't be going to the rink today. "You're a good boy," said Greg's mom. "It's a good idea to have a skating rink." And Lily's mom said, "The skating rink makes my parents feel a lot better. Last winter, my Lily skated outside and almost got hit by a car. Last year, all the kids skated outside, and now you can't get them outside. They're all clinging to this skating rink like I don't know what." They talked amongst themselves and left. "See?" Mike said. "And remember how everyone scolded us, saying, 'Ash will fill with ash,' did not give us a hose, did not give us water, and now they're thanking us. Come on." He waved his hand. "What to ask of them?" I felt sorry that Mike couldn't go to the skating rink. I decided not to go skating that day either, but instead to study, because I was really messed up too. I went home and studied until late at night, did my homework properly, and when everything was learned, instead of going to bed, I put on my skates and went out into the yard. A light bulb was burning brightly above our rink. All around were trees with white, sugar-colored branches. Large flakes of snow were falling from above and lay softly on the ice. And among these flakes, a small figure was spinning on the rink. I looked closer and saw that the figure was just Mike. He, too, like me, couldn't live a day without a skating rink. It was recently reported in the evening paper that the hockey team's rink on Center Street was the first to open for the season. But that's not true. The first rink this winter was opened in our yard. It started working a week and a half earlier than the rink on Central Street, but no one thought to write about it in the newspaper.